Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. I have two blended Irish whiskeys, 40% alcohol. One is famous, one is practically unknown. This is Tullamore D.E.W, Tullamore Daniel E. Williams. So D.E. Williams is what this was named after, one of their distillery masters and later a shareholder. Says established 1829, not this whiskey brand. That was much later. The guy died in the 1920s. Okay, so they named it after him, but I guess it was just called Tullamore whiskey. And then they gave it an honorary name for him, making it so popular. Since 1829, that's a little bit of a convoluted point of information, because yes, the original Tullamore distillery was built in 1829. Then it shut down in the 1950s. It went out of business and it's no longer in existence. It was torn down. But then the company's assets were bought over the years, and when William Grant and Sons got a hold of it, they built a new Tullamore distillery a few years ago in that town. So they're trying to make it sound like, it's been continuously made at the same old distillery since 1829, but no. Okay, but you can technically trace it back to that. Okay. Here's Iden Stills. This was introduced way back in 2023. There's the angel with the plaid sash reading a book, which is probably whiskey production methods. I don't know why they're showing that on the, what the point is of that artwork, but sometimes I guess I can't think of what to put on it. Now, if you look at the Tullamore website, you'll see that it's a lot. There's a new bottle, a fancier, more colorful bottle, not just green and gold. So it's kind of pretty. And I'll show you the website in just a moment. Take a look at these products. Make sure I poured enough. Yes, I believe that should be enough. This was $17.99 at Total Wine and More. It's only sold at Total Wine and More. It's a private label. The price has gone up $2 since I bought it. I might be wrong. Maybe I did pay $19.99, but it seemed like it was $17.99. Tullamore D.E.W. normally is in the 20s, mid-20s, something like that. It'll vary. But I've got it. Walmart had it for $13 even on closeout. They wanted to get rid of this brand. Strange to me because it's popular, but and I don't control Walmart. So I was in there and they had it for $13. Who's not gonna buy it for $13? I was definitely gonna buy it. Okay, so website. Tullamore D.E.W. People call it Tullamore, but it would spell do, but it's actually somebody's initials. Noun, a dog, and they've got the olive green, or is that like there's a light green, yellow green, I guess you call that. And then there's some pink and gold. They've in white. So they've changed the bottle design, I believe. Yes. I'm looking at my bottle. Yeah, changed the. It's got different embossments on it, and they've changed the label. Okay, well, anyway, that's our common practice. You won't find another whiskey, Tullamore D.E.W. Well, actually, you'll find a lot of Irish whiskeys like Tullamore D.E.W. It's a very common type from the rest. I don't think, but they're claiming it is. Ex-bourbon and ex-sherry butt, which means a cask, a barrel. Okay, I got to update that. Aged cask, no problem. Grain whiskey, malt whiskey, pot still whiskey. Okay. The typical thing for Ireland, triple distilled, not that unusual. Metals, many metals, okay. So it's now owned by William Grant and Company, and they make the Scotch whiskey. Here's Iden still makes it, but I think it's probably Kilbeggan, but I can't prove it. But design is identical to one that I have from Kilbeggan. So, but that could just be a standard Irish commodity bottle that they use across that country. You see what I mean? No, I mean doesn't necessarily mean it's from Kilbeggan. You see, could just be one of those common across the board bottles. But it is. We don't know. I don't know why they call it Iden Stills. I don't know who these people are. They probably got some kind of share in Alexander McKenzie and Company Group, who makes it for Total Wine and More. That's probably what it's at. Got something to do about it. I probably knows somebody. But there it is. That's the big jug. That's your better value if you buy the big jug. But then, of course, you better hope you like it, right? Because then you're stuck with a big jug bottle. Yes. So 1829. That's back when the United Kingdom. Now just Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. The rest of it broke away and became its own self-governing territory. And then in 1949, they declared themselves a republic and left the British Commonwealth. So we're out of here, bye. And don't invite us in because we don't want to come back. They said, okay. Joking, hello. Maxwell, hello, in the Russian Federation. All right, so here we go. I have never been to Ireland. We flew over Ireland in a plane last year, and you could kind of see it looked like a bunch of green stuff, like fields and woods and everything. Kind of like Louisiana, really, but not as much water, but surrounded by water. Completely surrounded by water since it's an island. Louisiana has a bunch of water all through it, and it's next to the water, with the Gulf of Mexico being south of Louisiana. All right. But we didn't go to Ireland. We went to England, merry old England. Did I buy any alcohol there? I bought beer. A 9% beer, but it wasn't from England. It was from, I know I went to England and didn't buy an English beer. Isn't that crazy? I bought a Polish beer, but it was 9%. I said, I want to get the strongest beer they've got in this grocery store called Asiatic Superstore. Wasn't a bad price either. Craft Beer Tastic says, I wonder how much money it costs for a country to leave the British Commonwealth. Well, I don't think they have to pay any money. They just leave. But it may cost them because they can lose all these juicy trade deals. You see, that's why they stay, because they get all these trade network. It's like a trading network. And since England, the United Kingdom is one of the top 7 richest countries in the world, plus they have a strong military and Navy, especially Navy, and so they'll protect those countries in the Commonwealth if somebody's picking on them. Like Guyana, for instance, last year, Venezuela was threatening to invade Guyana and take land from them that they claim belongs to them. And then a British warship showed up, and Venezuela was like, don't you interfere, don't you interfere. And they didn't have any comment. They're like, we typically don't let countries tell us where to bring our ships. So you might want to check out the file on the Falkland Islands and see how that worked out for another Latin American country that tried to start stuff. But do what you want to do. It's up to you. So that was interesting. But Ireland was like, we don't need to be part of this. Nobody's going to invade Ireland anyway, except maybe England, who that's how they became part of the British Empire, by getting invaded, so to speak. Okay, so yeah. South Africa did quit the British Commonwealth in 1961. In in lieu of being kicked out. See, they didn't want to be embarrassed by getting kicked out or suspended, so they just said, we're leaving. And they're like, okay, because they were going to get suspended because of their racial policies, their apartheid policies. So when they decided they were going to dismantle apartheid, and they officially ended it in 1994, well, they really were ending it before that, but they ended in 94, then they rejoined the Commonwealth of Nations. And they've been a member in good standing ever since. Okay. The United States left, what was called the Empire back then, and never wanted to rejoin. Okay, enough of that. And in fact, the United States is the only country in the world that ever left the British Empire without permission. All the rest left with permission. You see what I'm saying? Rhodesia tried to leave without permission, but after 14 years of back and forth struggling, they surrendered to Great Britain, and the British sent their army in and reoccupied the country. It's a true story. Okay. But the United States is the only country to ever leave without permission, which is laughable, because now the United States and Great Britain operate almost like a single country, running behind each other all the time, going around the world trying to run the world, run the whole world. I didn't say take it over. I said run it, manage it. You say, what gives them that right? Well, if you got the power to make it happen, I guess you could do what you want. But I didn't say I supported it. I'm just talking about what's going on. All right, now these don't smell. The appearance. I mixed them up really well. Are you near Lafayette or New Orleans? You ask me that question every day, and I keep answering it, and I'm not answering it again. Okay. This one's darker, and I don't know which one it is because I didn't look when I poured it. This one's lighter. So amber and gold. All right, enough mixing. I mean, there's no point to it because I don't know which is which. I don't know which one's darker, and I'm not going to look to see which would invalidate the taste challenge. Taste. I'm near Lafayette and New Orleans, if you want to know the answer. I'm near everything. Same old thing. Bread crust and honey. Bread crust, honey. You like bread crust, you like honey, then there's Irish whiskey for you. I mean, I'm serious. These things are so typical. I'm not talking bad about it. That's what they taste like. Oh, this one's more honey, though. It must be the Iden stills. Let me update that. Tullamore, no age statement. Aged in ex-bourbon and ex-sherry casks. Is that unusual? No, not really. Lots of Irish whiskeys aged in ex-bourbon casks and ex-marsala, ex-sherry. Those are types of wine. So for Irish whiskeys to be for Irish whiskeys to be aged in ex-wine barrels is not unusual. It's a common practice. Let me check Total Wine and More real fast just to see what the price, the going price is for Tullamore right now. They're showing the old, oh no, they're showing the old label and the new label. And there's a honey, everybody likes these flavored whiskeys. Caribbean rum cask, 18-year-old single malt. That's $149.99. 12-year-old special reserve, 14-year-old. So there's all kinds. Okay, so it's $24.99. It's actually cheaper than I thought. But I got it for 13. Got it for 13. What's the cheapest Irish whiskey they sell over there? Probably this Iden Stills, if I'm not wrong. I'm wrong. I forgot about Two Gingers. Doggone it. It's Two Gingers cheaper because it's only double distilled. That's probably part of it. Skipping a step so they save time, perhaps, and that time is money. So I know where to find Two Gingers for $15.99 though, 50 cents cheaper. It's a really good product. Couldn't tell it apart from Iden Still. Iden Still's $19.99. Okay. But actually the cheapest one is Two Gingers. Oh boy. Patties went up $1 to $20.99. But I think I can find patties. You know what? I know I can find patties because I just saw last week a grocery store chain over here had patties for $19.99 on sale. So if you're going to buy patties, just wait and look around in the sales paper. If you don't get the newspaper, well, I get the newspaper. But if you don't get the newspaper, you can look online at their flyers, and you probably find it for $19.99 somewhere. The honey is telling me it's the Iden Stills. If I bought it, I could save $5. So I would buy it. I think Iden Stills wins. I got it right. So now I'm 3-4. 3 wins, 4 losses. Boy, the next one I could even up to 4-4. And like I said, if I could finish at even, I'd be happy. I'd feel like I won, because Irish whiskey is so difficult to tell one from the other. So if I could finish at 50-50, I'd be happy. I feel like I made the playoffs, even though I actually didn't make the playoff. All right. Now with Scotch, you could usually do a lot better on Scotch challenges because they are different one from another, and especially if it's like single malt. There's a lot of cheat sheets, cognitive cheat sheets you can use, like, well, this one's Isla, so it's smoky, and then you go up against Speyside, which are very bready. You're not going to confuse the two, except I got a Speyside that's smoky. I bought a new one. It's a Speyside that's smoky. You say that's against the law. They can't make smoky Speysides. But they can make it. It's just not a tradition over there. Speyside generally is bready and not smoky. There's no law against it. It's just non-standard. It's a little strange, but it's not a law. It's like making Cajun food that's not spicy. You could eat Cajun food that's not spicy. Is unusual. Maybe not so unusual these days because the spice level in Louisiana has been dropping over the years because of amalgamation, acclimation. So many people from up north moving down here to work at the refineries and maybe the shipping areas, not shipyard, but you know what I'm saying, like the Port of New Orleans, Port of southeast Louisiana, and they don't like it so hot. So then they get married to somebody who's from here, like a bourgeois might marry a Smith from Minnesota. Or Svendegard from Minnesota, and then they have a child, and so then they grow up where it's not as spicy food, and then the whole thing. So definitely the spiciness of food down here is a lot less than 40 years ago. Because when I would go to school 40 years ago, the food would just be fiery hot, and And I wasn't raised on eating spicy food. My parents were not spicy food people because they weren't Cajuns, first of all. My father only like partly Acadian. His grandmother, okay, well, she was really German in her background. She might have grown up in Acadian culture, but her background, her last name was German. But in this area where I live is the German coast. But when I went to elementary school, you hungry, so you eat what's on the plate. I mean, you eat what they serve. I had to. I was hungry. So that the spaghetti meatballs, it'll light you up. Red beans and rice light you up. White beans and rice light you up. Especially the spaghetti meatballs. They would make the hottest meatballs. And I would be like, man, that's a spicy meatball. And all the, but then once you get used to it, then you can't go back, you see. And then you just say, oh man, it's so good. And it was all, back then it was all homemade. Like they would make their own meatballs at the cafeteria. No frozen meatballs. I mean, they wouldn't make their own spaghetti, but everything was done. All the dinner rolls were handmade. Not joking. They would make their own dinner rolls. They would bake their own bread. They didn't buy bread. They'd bake the bread in the cafeteria in these big ovens. They would bake it. So when I was going to elementary school and middle school, it was so good. The food was so good because bread that they made by hand, meatballs made by hand. I'm not saying everything was handmade. Like maybe the spinach was from a can, like the big commodity cans, Autocrat or Cisco commodities canned spinach, and they would always insist you eat the spinach. They wouldn't let you throw it out. The teachers will watch. You got to eat that spinach. So I would eat it. And then you could eat your pudding or your peanut butter cookie or whatever it was. Had to drink all your milk. You couldn't waste the food. And so, and if you didn't like it, they'd say, well, too bad. You want to get a whipping? I didn't argue. I just eat it. I'll get used to it, So that's the whole point of that. Now, you notice with craft beer, it's become more and more dull, because the mass market likes dull. They don't like strong flavors, and they like sugar for some reason. Everybody wants sweet. So as the craft beer world has deteriorated, you've got more products on the shelves, but they're a lot less flavorful and they're a lot sweeter. And those companies are going out of business faster than I can say going out of business. They just get bought out, shutting down, going out. But oh well. I told somebody yesterday, it's a lost cause and there's nothing anybody can do about it. If you think you could do something about it, you're living in a dream world. You cannot help that situation. All right. Well, thank you. And I'll be back tomorrow, God willing, with another taste challenge. And it'll be two more. It'll be Iron Stills against another blended Irish whiskey.